how the teachers are always there for you, and how affordable the school was.
At West Suburban College, one has the opportunity to complete a bachelor degree in only 2.5 years, with fascinating concentration options, including molecular biology and biotechnology, public health, pharmaceutical chemistry, and clinical chemistry. Our pre-professional programs in health sciences give students the fundamental knowledge needed to pursue other professional degrees, including pharmacy, dentistry, and IT. Regardless of where a student wants to take his or her career, NWSC offers numerous options and is here to help each person achieve his or her personal success.
I came to NWSC in May of 2015, and my last day of school was May 13, 2016. That was Friday, and I got a job interview, and I went there, and I started my job. Later, it's turned into my career as a clinical research coordinator on the 16th of May of 2016, which is the next Monday.
I'm very proud of not only the growth, but also the fact that I founded an institution and is here to be able to move this forward for the future. In 10 years, we started out with 2 students back in 2009 December. We have graduated over 650 students now. And all the students who have graduated from us have found jobs and making contributions to the betterment of society and serving humanity.
Innovative thinking, individual learning, affordable tuition, accelerated curriculum, service, excellence, and compassion. That's West Suburban College.
We move on to preparing for the keynote address this evening. And I'm sure you will enjoy a stimulating talk by Dr. Gianotti. And it's been my privilege to have known him in the recent past, and his efforts as an Islamic theologian and an interfaith work, and particularly in the focus on excelling from within. The concept of Ihsan is phenomenal. But in order to introduce him, please officially welcome Dr. Khalid Abdul Sami, who is the chairman of the Board of Regents. He has his own accomplishments in the professional field of anesthesiology, but what I would like to remind us all of is his commitment of a lifetime in social service causes, support of the community, and developing and building better interfaith relations. He's done tremendous service across the Chicago area and elsewhere in that field. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman, Board of Regents, Dr. Abdul Sami.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I feel extremely proud and honored to introduce Dr. Timothy Gianotti as our keynote speaker. Dr. Timothy is a scholar of classical theology, philosophy, and spirituality, and a strong interest in Islamic psychology, ethics, education, and political thought. He is also a Muslim theologian, an interfaith advocate through hands-on experience on promoting interfaith engagement around the globe, and an academic administrator and programmer builder. Just emerging from a 3-year contract as associate professor at University of Waterloo in Canada, he is currently devoting himself to write and continue his community work as the founder and the principal teacher of the Islamic Institute for Spiritual Formation in Toronto. He has also served as Director of Islamic Studies at the American Islamic College in Chicago, where he taught a vast array of academic courses and helped shape the oversee AIC 3-year degree program, BA, MA, and Master of Divinity in Islamic Studies as the Chief Academic Officer and Head of the Faculty. Prior to his work in Chicago, he spent 5 years serving York University and Noor Cultural Center as the York Noor Cultural Center of Islamic Studies, and subsequently as the York Noor Fellow in Arabic and Islamic Studies. Aside from this, all Dr. Gianotti has served on the religious studies and faculty of University of Virginia, University of Oregon, and Penn University. He is an author of 2 books, Al-Ghazali, Unspoken Doctrine of Soul, and The Light of Blessed Tree, Illumination of Islamic Belief, Practice, and History. published in 2011. In addition, an array of scholarly lectures, book chapters, and theological essay considering contemporary issues as well as traditional topic as inner psycho-spiritual processes of the moral beautification, ihsan, and character formation with the traditional Islamic work. Dr. Giannotti played an important role. This is not in his bio, but I have taken permission from Dr. Giannotti to talk something that is not mentioned in his bio. Dr. Giannotti played an important role in the life of Muhammad Ali, the champion advisor. He was selected by his advisor, Dr. Giannotti, to be spiritual advisor and asked him to advise in planning his funeral arrangements. Late Muhammad Ali asked Dr. Timothy to wash his body and lead his janazah salah. Dr. Timothy requested Sheikh Zayed of Zaytuna Institute to join him in this arrangement. When the champion passed away, Dr. Timothy and Sheikh Zayed gave the ghusl and showered for the burial. Sheikh Zayed led the janazah salah and they both followed the funeral coach or hearse to the burial ground. Without further delay, I present to you Dr. Giannotti.
Remembering, especially now, given all the grim events that are happening in the world, we remember that peace for us does not mean that everything is right with the world. And we remember that peace for us does not mean having our homes and our situations in order. Peace is rather one of the living qualities of God Most High, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because peace is one of the living qualities of God, it means that peace is always here within our grasp. It means that peace is always available to us if only we open our minds and our hearts to God. And so when we greet one another with peace, we are not wishing a state upon one another. Rather, we are praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is as-salam. We are praying that God will be present in your life in the form of peace, which comes from a root of wholeness, meaning that God is the one and the only one who can put the fragmented pieces of our families and the fragmented pieces of our world back together in a restored state of wholeness. So it's in that consciousness that I pray for God's presence to be alive within your life, within your heart, within your families, and within your communities. When I say Assalamu alaikum. We always begin from a default of hamd, of praise. No matter what's happening in our life, we begin with praise. And so we say, Innal hamdalillah. Verily all praise belongs to God. All thanks belongs to God for an infinite number of reasons, including the fact that God is al-haq. God is the reality. God is the one whose reality is not derived from anyone or anything else. Your reality and my reality is borrowed. As one of our great poets, Rumi, says, this is a rented house. So my existence is a borrowed existence. And so I'm not here to glorify my existence, but rather to glorify the one whose existence is the source for all of us. And so we say, Inna alhamdulillah. We say, Inna alhamdulillah fa huwa salam, because God, as I said, is the one who has the ability and the power, the unique ability and the unique power to restore wholeness to our lives and to our hearts. And so we say, in alhamdulillah. We say, in alhamdulillah, because God is ar-Rahman and ar-Rahim. Understanding from the Arabic that both of these names of God come from the Arabic root, rahm, which means the uterus or the womb in which our lives began. Even the Prophet ﷺ, in a verified hadith tradition, told us that the word in Arabic for the womb of the mother, the uterus, is Rahman. And so anyone who disrespects the one is disrespecting the other. And so when God chose to call God's self Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, God is teaching us about God's love for us, which can only be compared in this dunya to the love of a mother. Not to diss the fathers, me included, but simply to say that the love of a mother is unconditional. The love of a mother is nurturing. The love of a mother is protective. And the love of a mother involves a physical connection that of course is severed at birth, but a connection which remains the whole of our lives. And so for these and for so many reasons we say, in alhamdulillah. We offer our praise and our thanksgiving to God. We ask God to help us in everything that we do, in everything that we experience. And we ask God to give us refuge. We seek refuge and remedy in God from our ability to hurt one another, the evil tendencies which really do exist within us. And we seek refuge and remedy and rescue in God from our abilities to be destructive, even when we do not ourselves intend to be destructive. And we think even of the carbon imprint we left today to come to this dinner, not intending to harm the environment, and yet we did. Everything that we do comes at a cost to the environment. And so it is not that we always intend to do evil, but sometimes our actions have destructive implications. And we seek refuge and remedy in God from all of that. And we seek God's blessings and God's prayers and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Al-Mustafa, God's chosen and God's beloved, the one who was sent as Khatam al-Nabiyyin, the one who was sent to seal and to verify, to affirm and confirm what all the prophets before him brought and taught. And the one who was sent as nothing illa rahmatan lil alameen, the one who was sent as nothing but a token of God's love, that rahmah to everyone and to everything. We ask for God's blessings and God's peace to be upon him. We ask for God's blessings and peace to be upon his beloved family members who sacrificed everything, including their lives, for the sake of truth, for the sake of justice, for the sake of standing for the oppressed and the vulnerable, as Imam Hussein did on the field of Karbala. We ask for God's blessings to be upon his beloved family. We ask for God's blessings to be upon all of his righteous and true companions, who similarly gave up everything, their comfort, their wealth, their privilege. They gave up everything for the sake of promoting what they believed to be God's newest revelation for the people of planet Earth, so that someday we might inherit this religion intact and have our opportunity to write our chapter of Islamic history. So we ask for God's blessings and God's peace to be upon them. We should also tonight not neglect to mention the indigenous peoples of North America, those peoples who have been so brutally mistreated and whose sovereignty was so brutally and wrongfully taken from them, and yet who still exercise a kind of spiritual sovereignty as they stand for the sacredness of the creation. Not for their sake, but for the benefit of all life. And in doing so, they remind us of our own religion, which tells us that we were not created to be the takers of the creation, but rather we were created to be the caretakers, the khulafa of the creation on behalf of the true owner, who is not you and not me. We ask for God's blessings to be upon them. We ask for God's blessings and of God's mercy tonight, especially, to be upon all of the wrongfully killed souls from the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. We ask for God's peace, God's forgiveness, God's mercy to be upon all of those wrongfully taken souls, the slain, the wounded, the shaken, all of those whose sense of security was robbed from them in that vicious attack by a man whose ignorance led to fear and whose fear led to hatred of everyone in that Jewish community, but even beyond them, to anyone who would present as a person of difference, a person of a different faith, a person of a different color, a person who understood or named God differently than he does or did. We ask for God's peace to be upon those people. We ask for God's peace and God's mercy to be upon all of the vulnerable people in the world tonight. And finally, before I begin, it would be wrong for me to go forward with this speech without recognizing the person whose sacrifice has purchased for me the opportunity to be here with you tonight, and that is my wife, who is at home now with 4 of our 5 children who do not understand how difficult it is to be a single parent and to manage the homework and the meals and everything else. It is really her sacrifice which has allowed me to be here with you tonight, and it would be wrong for me to say anything without acknowledging her and giving her thanks. About my sisters, my brothers, and in saying that I mean everyone in this room, regardless of how we name God or regardless of how we love or who we love, I address you as my sisters and my brothers, my beloveds tonight. It is so important for us to recognize that we are having this conversation tonight in a context. We are having this conversation in a context, the context of a world which is on fire with hatred, with ignorance, with fear. A world that is raging with anti-Semitism, that is hatred of Jewish people because they are Jewish. Islamophobia, that is the hatred of Muslims because they are Muslim. All kind of racial discrimination and supremacism, the hatred of people because they look or present in a particular way. We are having this conversation at a time when ethno-nationalism and most importantly and most threateningly white supremacism is on the rise. We are having this conversation at a time when we as a planet are hurtling toward the greatest crisis that the world has known since the destruction of the dinosaurs. The great fear in the past few years was that the world would experience a 2 degrees Celsius warming, and now scientists are talking about the inevitability of 4. Some of our greatest cities will be flooded. Forest fires will rage. Droughts, 100-year, 200-year droughts will plague the planet. We are having this conversation in a very serious time, in a time of what we might call spiritual darknesses. We are also having this conversation at a time when our community is facing real crises and real darknesses. At a time when we see tremendous and ugly abuses of power, both governmentally as well as from the minbar, from the pulpit, the religious pulpit. We are having this conversation at a time when more and more of our religious leaders are being accused of sexual misconduct and abuse. of the young men and